lot of people are working at home at the moment, it's nice to have a bit of a lunchtime class as well, because we're either kind of sat stationary working in an office situation, or we're just very busy, and I think sometimes it's nice to just take a little bit of time out in the day, in the middle of the day, just to move the body. So this is going to be a bit of a kind of introduction, I suppose, if you've not taken one of my class, to my particular approach to teaching yoga. So it's a combination of yoga and functional movement, and I focus on strength and mobility. So today we're going to work on the hips and the shoulders. It's all going to be seated, so it's going to feel quite easy going, but there's some very sort of small detailed work. I quite like to work sort of in detail kind of thing with the muscles. So we're going to begin seated, so just take a comfortable seated position and just let the arms relax. So we can just close the eyes and start to come into our space. And then begin just focusing on your breathing. Maybe you've had a busy morning. Lots gone on maybe to get you here just now. So now's the time just to settle, just to relax. And just to notice ourselves, our body, our mind. And then bring awareness to your body. So as it's sitting here, just have a scan around and just see how you're feeling. Which parts of the body are feeling good and strong. And also just noticing those parts of the body that might be a little bit sore or achy or tight. Just noticing. It's always about starting from exactly where we are today. So not worrying about what we could do yesterday or what we might be able to do in a few weeks' time. This is our body now. And then as we continue to breathe, we're going to focus on expanding the ribs as we breathe in. So taking a deep breath in. And just expanding the ribs, the rib cage, as we breathe in and then breathe out. Just let the rib cage relax. So taking nice deep breaths in and a breath out. So bringing that breath into the rib space, into the lungs. Letting the shoulders soften. And just letting the belly soften as well. And then we slowly just open our eyes and come back into our space. So we're going to take the hands and just place them. First, let's just feel the bottom of the ribs. So just going to find that space. So the kind of the bottom of the ribs that joins the belly, the abdomen. So we just know where the bottom of the ribs are, just underneath the chest. And then we're going to place the hands around the ribs. So thumb towards the back and then the fingers just on the front. And that's just going to help bring our breath into the rib space. So we want to feel like we're expanding the ribs like this and then contracting them as we breathe out. So we'll just begin. So we'll breathe in and breathe out. So we're really bringing that breath into the ribs each time we breathe in. So we're feeling like the ribs are getting wider, so they can actually expand all the way around 360 degrees. Bringing that lovely breath into the ribs. That's it. And then we're going to, next time we breathe in, we're going to just twist to the right hand side, and we only want to move as much as the ribs allow us. So we're not doing a big twist over towards the back, we're just allowing the hands almost just to turn the ribs just diagonally over towards one knee and then back to the centre and then over to the other side. So the head can stay kind of level with the chest, and we're just getting that movement. So it's almost, I feel like it's a bit like sort of turning a jam jar. So the ribs, you're just kind of turning this huge jam jar in the middle of your body, just turning it. So we're just isolating through the chest, through the ribs, particularly the thoracic spine, which can get a little bit tight when we're sitting a lot, or if we're kind of hunched over our computer devices. So just keep twisting, rotating. That's it. And then come back to the centre and let the arms relax to the side. So we're going to turn the palms of the hands up towards the ceiling, then bring them about shoulder height, relaxing the shoulders, and then tip the fingers down to the floor. So the arms are relatively straight, but you can keep a bit of a bend in the elbows. So we're just pressing through the wrists. So we're actually getting a bit of a stretch through the forearm. So we're just pressing those wrists away, but we don't need to lock out into the arms. That might be really difficult, or you might have a tendency to lock those arms if you've got hypermobile elbows. So we want to just try and focus on the wrist just stretching out. That's it. And then just gently, just let that release. And then just walk the right hand out towards the side. We're just going to take a gentle stretch over towards the right. And then the same thing over towards the left. So just walk the hands out, gently easing out through the waist. And then let's go from one side to the other. So we're going to go to the right. And then the left. So just getting that nice flow from side to side, just easing out. And if you're sitting cross-legged, so you can sit cross-legged or have the feet out in front. But if you are cross-legged, just make sure the knees are nice and relaxed. So you're not gripping the knees up or gripping through the hips. That's it. And then we're going to go to the right side and just take a bigger twist this time. So left hand can just come on the left knee. And we're just going to look over towards the right shoulder. And then over towards the left shoulder. And then over towards the right shoulder again. And then the left shoulder. That's it. And then come back to the centre. So we're going to link the hands together in front of us. And we're going to keep the arms relatively straight. I'm just going to turn to the side because it might be easier for you to kind of see what's going on. But of course, you can just listen along as well. You don't always have to kind of watch what I'm doing if you kind of feel like your body understands it. So we're going to keep the body where it is in space, and we're going to stretch the arms forward. What we want to do is think about those shoulder blades stretching and separating, widening on the back. So we're reaching the hands forward in space, and then when we bring them back, we can actually squeeze those shoulder blades together. So we're reaching them out. So the body stays where it is, and then we're just pinching those shoulders behind. So if we just bring our minds into the shoulder blades and see whether we can get that movement from the actual back of the shoulder blades, stretching and then squeezing in. And then we'll bring some shoulder circles. So we're going to lift up to the ears and all the way back round and then up to the ears. So as we do it, really want to think about the quality of the movement. So we're focusing on the shoulder blades moving. And then let's go the other way. So those shoulder blades are lifting up and round and separating, then coming back together. And that you might just notice some creaks, some twinges, just seeing how the shoulders are feeling. That's it, one more time. And then let's just release the hands, give the hands a bit of a shake, and we're going to bring the legs out. So if you can stay, if you're sitting on a block, stay sitting on a block, that'll be absolutely fine. Or sit on a block if it's easy for you, if you've got one, or a cushion. So sometimes if you feel like you're kind of rolling backwards, maybe your hips are a little bit tight, they can always sit upon something. So it just brings the pelvis nice and neutral. And the legs can be as wide as feels comfortable for you, so they don't have to be mega wide, just so that you've got a little bit of space in between the legs. So then we're going to just rotate the legs in and out. And what we want to do is focus on that movement coming from the leg bone. So we're going to rotate them in and rotate them out. So it's a relatively small movement, but we're just focusing on the movement coming from the hip joint. So it's like the legs, we're just kind of almost just kind of moving just in the hip socket, in and out and in. So we're getting some nice movement into those hips. That's it. And then we're going to bend the knees in and lift the knees up, bend the knees in. So we're just going to rest on our heels. And then we're going to bring the palms of the hands together and place each elbow on the inside of the leg. So again, it doesn't matter how wide they are, it's what's comfortable for you. So if you can, just bring the hands down in between the legs. And then we're going to squeeze the legs against the arms and keep the arms nice and strong. So it becomes an active stretch. So we're working on hip mobility, but it becomes very active because these knees are pushing in towards the arms, and actually we're holding those knees there. So all the time we're squeezing into those elbows, keeping the breath nice and easy flowing. Keep squeezing those knees, keep squeezing, and then relax those knees, and maybe you can just open them a little bit more. And if you can, maybe just move those elbows a little bit further down the leg, so those hips might have found a little bit more space. So move those elbows a bit further down, and the same thing. So we're going to squeeze those legs together into the elbows, really squeezing. So they're really active, so from the outside it looks like you're kind of just sitting here in this nice little pose, but actually the legs are really working hard, really squeezing, really strengthening. And then let that go and see whether you can just open those hips out a little bit more. So maybe there's a little bit more space, a bit more mobility. And then we're going to move the elbows down a little bit more and do the same thing again. So we squeeze into those elbows, really squeezing, really squeezing. Keep breathing as well at the same time. It's quite strong through the legs. And then relax. Just stretch those legs out. Relax the arms. Just take a few breaths. Just see how those hips are feeling. So it's quite an active stretch working into that position. So now we're going to bring the legs into a 90-90 position. So we're going to come over to the right side. So the right leg is in front and the left leg is behind. So it's this kind of 90-90 position where the knees are kind of roughly in 90-degree angles. So if you are sitting on something, now's the time to probably just put that to the side, just so that you don't fall off it. Super. And then we're going to just place the right hand just next to the right hip down here on the floor, and take a breath in and sweep that arm, the left arm, all the way up to the ceiling, and then just start to open out the shoulder and the chest, and then sweep that arm all the way round. So we're just getting a nice rotation through the upper part of the chest, and rotate that all the way around. So this right hand here, you can even have it a little bit further away just to give the hips a bit more space. So if it feels like the hips are quite crunched together, you can bring the hand a little bit further away and actually do a bit more of a relaxed version of that 90-90. So don't feel like you've got to be sitting really upright, just to get that movement into the hips and the shoulder. Brilliant. So then we're going to come back just to our starting position and focus down just on the knee of the back leg. Press that knee into the mat and see whether you can lift the ankle of the left foot. It might not lift at all, particularly if you've never done this move before, and then lower it back down. So don't worry if it doesn't move, or it's just like a slight sort of shimmering above the mat. So it's just sometimes it's getting these new messages, these new signals into the body. And we'll just do that again. So see whether you can just lift that ankle. Just be careful of anything going on in the hips, in case sometimes it can cause a little bit of cramp. And then lower that down. This time we're going to try and lift just the knee and keep the ankle fixed. But to just stop the pelvis kind of opening as well, because we just want to lift the knee up a little way, we're going to place the hand on this side of the pelvis, the left hip, and then just lift that knee up a little way, and then lower it back down. So lifting it up a little way and lower it back down. That's it. And then we're going to go all the way over to the opposite side. Now if you're familiar with this pose, feel free to do this without any hands, and we can just open up and go over to the other side, or we can just place the hands behind and roll over the back Any which way, it doesn't matter how we get here, as long as we get here. So it's your version of whatever works for you. Okay, so we're in this 90-90 position. And then just the left hand's just placed on the mat, down by the side. And we're going to take a breath in. And then open out and bring the arm behind. So take a breath in. And then sweep the arm behind. So it's this nice flowing movement, opening through the shoulders, rotating through the chest, getting some movement into the body. That's it. One more time. And then come back to the centre. So each hand, the hands can be either side of that front leg. And again, we're going to focus down on pressing the right knee into the mat this time, and just see whether we can get a lift from that ankle. Might happen, might not, but it doesn't matter because we're still sending those signals to that foot to lift. Sometimes it might actually happen after a few kind of, tries of doing it. So pressing that knee down and then lifting that ankle, lowering it back down. And again, it's not a very big lift even if you are lifting it. So you're not going to suddenly, because they're just not this is a hinge joint, it's not a ball and socket joint, so it's not going to lift a huge amount. And then lower that back down. So this time we're going to just keep the ankle firmly on the mat and the hand on the hips, and just see whether we can just lift that knee up a little bit. So we're just isolating each part of the leg and each part of the joint, and just getting the body working differently, independently. Sometimes we kind of move the body as a whole thing and not necessarily thinking about the detail of the different movements that our body can actually do. So just lift that out one more time. That's it. And then we're going to do a few, so we can let that go. We're going to do a few movements over to one side and the other. So we can do it either with the hands behind. So this, again, if this is new to you, we're going to open the back leg and then rotate over to the opposite side. So we're just going to do that a few times and do it quite slowly. So we're not just kind of moving from one to the other. We're kind of lifting the knee up and then bringing that other knee with us. So we're really working internal and external rotation through the hip joint. And maybe you might try one just with the hands out in front, see how that feels for the hips. So again, that is a little bit more challenging. Sometimes you might have that hip mobility, or that might build up over time. Let's see how the body's feeling. That's it. And then one more time over to the left side. Brilliant. Let's bring those knees together. And we're going to just do a little bit just before we finish, just on our hands and knees. So just come to kneeling position. Just give the hips a little bit of time to go. Whew. So that might be feeling quite a lot of work, depending if you've done that before or not. So we're going to come onto our hands and knees. Spread the hands nice and wide. And before, when we were working on the shoulder blades, we thought about the shoulder blades spreading wide on the back. So we want to press down into the arms so that those shoulder blades feel nice and wide on the back, keeping our back in a neutral-ish position. So we're not sort of dipping down, we're just pressing through the hands. And then we're going to come into a cat-cow pose. What we're going to do is a little different from the kind of usual way you might do it. We're going to start tucking in from the pelvis to begin with, and really moving mindfully, move up the spine, tucking it in, pressing it up towards the ceiling, and work up the vertebrae, one vertebrae at a time. And then finally the head and the neck just tucks in. And then we're going to untuck from the pelvis and see whether you can isolate that pelvis, so that pelvis untucks first. And then the lower back, the mid back, and we start to uncurl the back. So we're going to do that a few more times. So it's really slowing the movement down and getting into the different vertebrae of the spine, almost as though we can move each bit by bit. So we try and bring the mind into that part of the body. That's it. So one more, either way, whichever way You're on, finish that one. And then come back to your neutral spine, that's it. So this is a really nice kind of moving meditation. Brings the body, the mind into the body, so it brings us into the present moment. So we can really notice how the body's feeling. So come back to our neutral back. And then we're going to lower down onto the forearms, turning the palms of the hands up towards the ceiling. So we're coming down to a forearm. Palms of the hands are up towards the ceiling. Elbows are underneath the chest. Underneath the shoulders, sorry. And then we're going to press the backs of the wrists and the fingernails and the hands right into the mat. So it becomes a really active stretch again. So like we did with the legs at the beginning, in the wide seated position, this becomes really active. So keep pressing those hands down into the mat. So you might feel that through the arms, through the top of the shoulders, stretching the whole chest. You might even feel it in the backs of the arms or the backs of the shoulders. Really keep pressing down. Pressing into the mat, pressing the hands. So don't worry if parts of the hands don't actually connect with the mat. The thumbs might not actually connect with the mat. Just pressing those bits that do touch the mat down into the mat. So it's really nice and active. That's it. And then just relax. Tuck the toes under. Walk the hands back to the knees. And just take a few breaths here. So let's just take a little bit of a toe stretch as well. So we're just tucking the toes under. Just for a few breaths, keeping those feet nice and mobile as well at the same time. Brilliant. And then we're going to come back to a seated position. It goes so quickly, what, a half an hour. So let's come back to our seated position. We're going to take a few breaths together. So find a comfortable position. It doesn't have to be cross-legged. This is always my default position for some reason, but you can be sitting on your knees, or you can have the legs out in front if that's more comfortable. So let's just keep the hands nice and relaxed, and then close the eyes. Keep the back of the head nice and long, so almost feel like the back of the neck can kind of move a little bit towards the wall behind you, or the space behind you. Focus back on your breath. I'm just going to do a couple of rounds of the 6-6 breath together. So I'm going to count you through it. So it's basically breathing in for 6 counts and breathing out for 6. And it's really nice just to calm the nervous system, just calm the body down. So just breathe out just to prepare, and then breathe in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathe out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathe in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathe out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathe in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathe out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathe in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathe out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathe in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathe out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathe in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Breathe out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then just return back to your normal rhythm of breathing. Bringing your awareness back into your body. And then having a scan all over the body and just seeing how it feels now. Just see which areas feel strong, feel good. And just notice also which areas of the body might feel a bit uncomfortable. And just send a little bit of kindness to those areas, a little bit of patience with ourselves. And then becoming aware of the room that you're in, the space that you're in right now. And remembering the day of the week. and the month we're in. And then slowly opening the eyes. And just taking time just to maybe have a little look around, just moving the eyes from back to left to right, up and down. And we'll take 3 final breaths in and out together. So we'll sweep the arms up towards the ceiling as we do so, as we breathe in. So let's take a breath in, breathing in, palms of the hands together, and breathing out. We can sigh that breath away, so opening the mouth. Now breathing in again. Nice deep breath in through the nose. Sigh that breath away. And breathing in again. Nice stretch as well at the same time. Breathing out. Thank you very much for joining me this lunchtime. If you're going to have lunch now, then enjoy.
Really good, thank you very much.
Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Hope to see you all soon. Thank you. Have a good day.
Cheers, bye.
Bye.